Three quarterbacks, six receivers, and a few surprises in store as we try to predict the 2024 New England Patriots 53-man roster. Stick around. You're about to be locked in to the Locked On Patriots podcast.
You are Locked On Patriots, your daily New England Patriots podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all of you Foxborough faithful. Thank you once again for making Locked On Patriots a daily part of your New England Patriots coverage. Don't forget, Locked On Patriots is not only a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, but we are also free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So smash that subscribe button and download and follow Locked On Patriots wherever you get your podcasts to ensure you're getting the latest episode as soon as it's available. I'm your host, Mike Debate. I cover your New England Patriots for Patriots Country of Athlon Sports, so reach out to me and let me know what's on your mind on X at MDABATE NFL. While you're out there showing some social media love to Locked On Patriots, please be sure to follow our account there as well at LO_Patriots. And Pats fans, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. With the playoffs now a distant memory, the sports stop sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And Pats fans, thank you for joining us here today on this roster prediction episode of Locked On Patriots, hopefully making us your first listen when it comes to consuming your New England Patriots coverage. And as you can see, some technical snafus prevented us from being in the studio today, but we still have a lot to cover because there are 53 members of this New England Patriots roster that we're about to put on the opening day roster, so to speak, of course. And today's predictions come on the heels of the Patriots failing to secure a win in their second preseason game. Still a handful of standout performances during that contest. How shall we say adjusted the chances of several players who right now are on the cusp of earning or maybe even possibly losing a roster spot for 2024. That picture may get a little clearer, and it will continue to get clearer every day this week as the Patriots get ready for their final preseason tune-up. I figured it was time to make my attempt at predicting the Patriots' opening day roster. And folks, where do we start? Where else would we start? That's right, quarterbacks. I've got the Patriots carrying three in 2024. Jacoby Brissett, Drake Maye, Joe Milton, and unfortunately, Bailey Zappi on the outside looking in. And Jerod Mayo recently advised all of us in Patriots Nation that the Patriots starting quarterback competition isn't over. I think we all learned that on Thursday night with Drake Maye's standout performance against the Philadelphia Eagles. This kid has all the tools and intangibles to be an NFL quarterback, but is he ready for prime time? Well, the Patriots coaches and their brain trust are going to have to determine that over the course of the next couple of weeks. And if they decide that he's not, they have a very good consolation prize in Jacoby Brissett, because even though he had some struggles against the Eagles last Thursday, I still think Jacoby is the front runner to get the ball for the season opener on September 8th against the Cincinnati Bengals. Some will tell you that he's been shaky throughout the preseason. I don't necessarily think he's been as accurate as he has been in the past, but he's still overall a solid decision maker. He's got great fundamentals, great mechanics, and if the Patriots decide that it's in their best interest to start the season with Jacoby Brissett, he's going to give you a quality start. But I think the pleasant surprise here, and we saw this on Thursday night, is that Drake Maye may be a little further along in his development than a lot of us gave him credit for. That performance against the Eagles gave legitimacy to the possibility of his earning the job in short order. So you want to keep your eye out for that. I think Patriots practices this week are going to be telltale. If Drake is out there getting a lot of reps with the ones, especially as the week goes on, it could be an interesting indication that the Patriots might be thinking in those directions. As for the third option at quarterback, I still believe the Patriots only carry three, and I think the nod goes to Joe Milton. And the thing that's impressed me most about Milton is his field awareness. I don't believe I ever really gave him proper credit for just how good he is at knowing what's going on the field and how to navigate the action. To me, this is the reason why the New England Patriots gave him a roster spot rather than try to sneak him on the practice squad, and I think this is a solid trio for the New England Patriots to head into the 2024 season with. Probably not a big surprise that Bailey Zappi is on the cutting room floor here. I know a lot of you out there are clamoring for this to happen. I actually believe that Bailey has handled himself here with a great deal of class and poise, and I believe he's still capable of catching on with the team and being a solid backup, maybe even a spot starter. If in fact the Patriots find Zappi available to sign on the practice squad, I think they do it in a heartbeat. Question is whether Zappi will want to do that. He did so last year, ended up ascending to the starting position. Don't forget, if Drake Maye is not going to be your starter right off the bat, and you have an injury to Jacoby Brissett, Patriots are going to need someone, a veteran that can come in and lead this team. Murph talked about this a little bit earlier on this week on Locked On Patriots. Do you want to hand the keys to the kingdom over to two rookies just yet? With a lot of uncertainty along the offensive line and a lot of young players that need navigation, might not be the best strategy. So keep a sharp eye on that, but I still stand by my prediction here. I think the Patriots go three quarterbacks, Brissett, Maye, Milton, and I think they'll roll the dice and take their chances with Bailey Zappi. Moving on to the running backs, and I have the Patriots carrying four here. Of course, Rhamondre Stevenson, always looking fantastic. He is your starter. He is the top of the heap. I also have them keeping Antonio Gibson, Kevin Harris, and JaMycal Hasty sneaking his way onto this roster. Fortunately, that means that rookies Terrell Jennings and Deshaun Fenwick are on the outside looking in. I look for the Patriots to try to retain both of these guys via the practice squad. Now, throughout training camp, Rhamondre has continued to prove himself as, in my opinion, the ideal steward of Alex Van Pelt's offense. He's taking full advantage of his prowess in outside zone concepts. This is exactly what he did at Oklahoma. Hasn't really had a chance to flex his muscle in this regard with the New England Patriots, but Stevenson is going to really get a chance to showcase that this year, and I, for one, cannot wait to watch him in a game setting, a meaningful game setting, that is, and really be the spark of a Van Pelt run offense that uses the run to facilitate the passing game and get things in gear. Once again, Stevenson is the guy to do that. Antonio Gibson, Kevin Harris, I think they're roster locks. Gibson is your third down guy. He's your receiving back. He can also give you some early down run prowess, as can Kevin Harris. Kevin is going to once again be your weapon in the red zone, but I think he can get out in the open field and give you some quality runs there as well. The surprise here might be Hasty getting the nod over both Jennings and Fenwick as the fourth option. I know JaMycal really opened a lot of people's eyes with that 23-yard catch and run off a Mays pass against the Eagles earlier this week. That was an eye-opener. Last season, there was a logjam at the position for Jacksonville. He found himself being phased out. The New England Patriots pounced, and they brought him in. And to me, that was a windfall. I think he's going to be a versatile addition in Van Pelt's offense, and that's why I have Hasty cracking the 53-man roster this year. Perhaps the moment you've all been waiting for is the wide receivers group. And of course, this one comes with its share of surprises. I have the Patriots going 6 at wide receiver. Jalen Polk, Demario Douglas, Javon Baker, KJ Osborne, Jalen Reagor, and Kayshon Boutte. Yeah, there's a name out there that I think a lot of you were surprised I left off. We'll get to that in just a minute. But with Kendrick Bourne expecting to start the season on the physically unable to perform list, or the PUP list, that is, folks, the Patriots have an extra spot to fill. I think they fill it with Reagor. And as the great Don would say, I'm going to give you my reasons. Yes, he's getting the extra playing time in preseason, but give Jalen a lot of credit. He's making the most of it. He's showcasing things that really make him stand out above his peers. Let's face it, he's been their primary return guy in the preseason with Marcus Jones still on the shelf. Versatility is very big in this new regime, and that's why I think Reagor gets the nod here. The Patriots have given him a chance. He's grabbed it. Now let's see if he can hold on to it and keep it. But if I'm making the roster today, I'm including Jalen Reagor on this list. Of course, the big surprise here, and again, this may not be a surprise for some of you, but I have Kayshon Boutte getting the nod over Tyquan Thornton. And I know, Tyquan has been aligning with the starters. He hasn't played deep into games. That usually is a sign that he or any player that falls into that category would be safe in terms of a roster spot. But in my humble opinion, there are only so many spots on a roster right now. I don't think the Patriots are going 7 deep at receiver. So I give the edge to Boutte here. And he's been the team's leading receiver throughout training camp and the preseason. I do understand that Taekwon has exceptional speed, and he does, folks. He has it. I've watched it during training camp practices, all throughout his preparations. This guy can accelerate with the best of them. And as my good friend Steve Balistreri has said several times, the Patriots really don't have anybody on the roster that can do what he does. But I look at Reagor's versatility, and I look at Boutte's ability to run routes and the talent he has in knowing where to be in order to make plays happen, giving these two the slight advantage over Tyquan Thornton. Please don't get me wrong. Tyquan was a very tough cut. I didn't want to do it because the Patriots will have a tough time attempting to replicate his speed. But his injury history, including the injury he recently suffered in camp, and that's kept him off the practice field a little bit, ultimately forced my hand here. We now move on to tight ends, and this one's for one of our very favorites over in West Midlands in the UK. That's right, Claire, we're going to cover the tight ends right now. And unsurprisingly, the Patriots carry three in this prediction: Hunter Henry, Austin Hooper, and Jaheim Bell. Mitchell Wilcox, LaMichael Petway, and Jacob Warren find themselves on the outside looking in, with a couple of these guys definitely practice squad possibilities. Now, I think New England's tight ends may be among the easiest positional group on the roster to predict. Hunter Henry's been out with an undisclosed injury, but we've heard several times it's not expected to be serious, and he's not expected to start the season on an injury list. Austin Hooper, on the other hand, getting the reps with the ones, has been exceptional throughout training camp. If he's ready to go, and I'll get to that in just a moment, folks, he should provide the Patriots quarterbacks with a reliable veteran pass catcher that can make plays happen. So Austin has definitely played his way onto this roster. And given the fact that he was a pretty high-profile addition via free agency, I don't think anybody's too surprised. A lot of people keep saying that Bell could be a practice squad stash. I understand the reasoning behind it, but again, Bell's got a lot of light on him from the time that he spent at Florida State and the prowess that he showed. I think a lot of people realize that they may have let him slip in the draft, and they shouldn't have. Because of that, teams might be ready to pounce on Jaheim Bell if he's cut. I look for the Patriots to eliminate that possibility. They're not going to take that chance. I think they're going to put him on the roster. Once again, this is a guy that can block. He can make things happen. He's got speed, ability to make the catch, and I think a very good developmental prospect. All things being equal, I like him as a fit in Alex Van Pelt's offense better than Mitchell Wilcox, LaMichael Petway, or even Jacob Warren. Warren, I think, is a guy that I would absolutely do everything I could to keep on the practice squad, especially as a blocker. This kid has the ability to do it. So maybe the tight ends weren't so interesting after all. Well, unfortunately, this group got a little bit of a wrinkle on Sunday in the form of Sunday's practice. Austin Hooper, while out working with the top team offense, hobbled off the practice field and unfortunately did not return. Patriots right now need to keep a sharp eye on this because they're already thin at tight end, especially when it comes to established veterans. If, in fact, Austin Hooper is going to miss any time with an injury, Pats are going to have to be savvy on this. They may have to look at some of the free agent options out there, or maybe even keep a sharp eye on the waiver wire as roster cutdowns approach. It's the sincere hope of myself, all of us here in Patriots Nation, that Austin is fine. He's back on the practice field, and he's ready to roll. But this is one to keep an eye on and could make this position a little more interesting than maybe we gave it credit for. But for the purposes of this discussion, I still say the Patriots go with Henry, Hooper, and Bell. So we've covered the Pats' glamour positions when it comes to offense. But you and I both know that games are won in the trenches, and we're about to go down into the trenches when it comes to both the offensive line, defensive line, and yeah, we're going to throw the linebackers into that mix as well because they're going to have to get their hands dirty quite often, especially in the absence of Matthew Judon. How will the New England Patriots line shape up? I'll discuss that and more when this episode of the Locked On Patriots podcast continues, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Locked On listeners, what are your self-care non-negotiables? You eat right, get plenty of sleep. When you work out, you never skip leg day. Well, you shouldn't skip therapy day either, because let's face it, when your schedule is packed with activities, big work projects, and more, it's easy to let your priorities slip. Even when we know what makes us happy, it's hard to make time for it. But when you feel like you have no time for yourself, Non-negotiables like therapy are more important than ever. It can truly be helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. Most importantly, it empowers you to be the best version of yourself. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Patriots fans, thank you once again for joining us here today on Locked On Patriots, and thank you for making Locked On Patriots your first listen today. If all of you everydayers out there have been making Locked On Patriots your first listen every day, I implore you to make your second listen the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast. Get daily insight into the best fantasy draft strategies so you can win your league this season. Locked On Fantasy Football is a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, just like us here at Locked On Patriots. And today, we are making our best educated guess on how the New England Patriots 53-man roster might shake out. In the previous segment, we talked about the quarterbacks, the running backs, the receivers, and the tight ends. But games are won in the trenches, and we're about to go down into the trenches. So without further ado, let's take a look at the New England Patriots offensive line, shall we? The much maligned offensive line. And because I believe this is the position where the Patriots need the most help this year, I have them carrying 9 offensive linemen. Chuks Okorafor, Sidy Sow, David Andrews, Michael Wenu, Darian Lowe, Caden Wallace, Layden Robinson, Nick Leverett, and Calvin Anderson. Anderson gets put on here as a little bit of a surprise, but I think his veteran leadership and I think his ability to be a reserve swing tackle gives him the nod here. Of course, that means on the outside looking in would be Zuri Henry, Michael Jordan, Antonio Mafi, Charles Turner III, Liam Fornadel, and Kellen Diesch. Of course, we can't ignore the fact that the Patriots are opening the season with 3 guys already on the shelf. Cole Strange will start the season on PUP. Not quite sure when we're going to see him, but hopefully Cole will be back at some point this year. Jake Andrews, Tyrone Wheatley Jr., already on injured reserve. Their seasons are over. And even though the Patriots have had well-documented struggles all throughout the offensive line, they seem to have a solid 5-man rotation when it comes to starters. And again, we saw that against the Eagles on Thursday night. Lowe at left tackle, Sow at left guard, Andrews at center, Owenu at right guard, and Okorafor at right tackle. And that unit has had its ups and downs. I believe they played better on Thursday than they did last week against the Carolina Panthers, and I think this unit is starting to show improvement each and every day. That being said, they're still a ways away from where they need to be, especially when it comes to the tackles. They've struggled with sealing off pass rushers along the ends, had some hiccups at right tackle. Chuks Okorafor has had his moments, but the left tackle position is a concern. There is no question about it, and it will continue to be. I'm not sure if the Patriots end up going with Caden Wallace here right off the bat, or if they're going to try to groom him to be a tackle, whether it be on the left or whether it be on the right. I think he's still a little bit away from starting, but if the Pats feel that he's one of the best, and I think he's been one of the most consistent and athletic linemen throughout the entirety of training camp in the preseason, maybe Scott Peters says go with it. Let's see what he can do. And if they decide that's the best course of action, then Caden Wallace may end up in the starting lineup sooner rather than later. Now, again, on Sunday's practice, there was another interesting wrinkle into this group, and that is Michael Wenu kicking over and playing a little right tackle during a portion of practice. Now, that led to a lot of members of Patriots Nation wondering whether the Pats had seen enough of Darian Lowe and Chuks Okorafor at the tackle positions. Apparently, that's not the case, because the media spoke with Michael Wenu just after practice had concluded, and he said this was just a result of the Patriots being down a couple of linemen. Nick Leverett wasn't at practice, neither was Calvin Anderson, so the team was prepping for contingencies. So once again, that is my best hypothesis on what the offensive line is going to look like. A lot of it's going to be determined by practice and the final preseason game. So keep an eye on this one, folks. These names could shuffle up and down as the days wear on. Flipping the script now, we turn our attention to the defense. And of course, the big news when it comes to the defensive line, Christian Barmore likely out indefinitely as he continues to be treated for blood clots. We're not sure when Christian is going to come back or even if it will happen this year. That's why I believe he will start this season on IR. Keep in mind, folks, that players can be designated to return, so it's going to be very interesting if he's placed on injured reserve to start the season. That being said, the Pats have some big shoes to fill, and in my opinion, they do it with these 7 guys, starting with the team captain, Drake Maye Jr., Keion White, who's going to have an awful lot on his shoulders, Davon Godchaux, Daniel Ekuale, Jeremiah Farms Jr., Mike Purcell, and Tristan Hill make the cut here for the purposes of this roster projection. Now, on the outside looking in, Sam Roberts, Armon Watts, William Bradley King. This was a tough cut for me, folks. Came close to putting Bradley King on this roster, and of course, Josiah Bronson. Now, in terms of veteran leadership on this group, the Patriots are going to need to look to Wise and Godchaux for, as I like to call it, wisdom and counsel. And each of these guys can provide it, but they are also very good at what they do on the field. Drake Wise is going to continue to be a player that gets after the quarterback, makes things happen in the pass rush, and Davon Godchaux is one of the best in the league at being in the middle of the defense, doing the things it takes to win in the trenches. That's why the Patriots wanted to make sure that they re-upped him and kept him happy here in New England. The player in this group to me who's been the most impressive and probably one of the feel-good stories of training camp this year is Jeremiah Farms Jr., who has really more than asserted himself as a potential force within the Patriots defensive line. I think he could be a contender for the starting role, maybe even the guy that takes Christian Barmore's place in that role. We're starting to see that alignment a little bit. It would not shock me to see him continue to get those reps. But the name on here that I think stands out to everyone is Keion White. And especially after the trade of Matthew Judon, everybody is looking to White now to play more of a linebacker role this season and really be that alpha when it comes to the Patriots pass rush. Some people are going out on a limb and listing him as a linebacker. I'm not doing that just yet. I still think that his physical size, his athleticism is going to allow him to continue his success as a true defensive end. He can be effective all over the field. And because of that, I would look for Keion White to take on the type of role that could see him break out as a potential star this year. Yeah, that's how good this guy is at being able to get after opposing quarterbacks and also realize where all the action is on the field with each and every snap. So, folks, if it's not already, keep a sharp eye on Keion White. This kid is primed for a big season in New England in 2024. As for surprise cuts in this group, I think Watts may be a surprising cut to some, especially based on his veteran experience and the fact that he was one of the more prominent free agents that the Patriots signed early in the offseason. However, he's had a pretty quiet camp. We haven't really heard much from him. Other players on this positional group have outplayed him, most notably guys like Mike Purcell and Tristan Hill, who continue to align more with the starters than Armon does. I think Armon right now is on the outside of the roster bubble, but things could change between now and cut-down days at the end of August. A trip through the trenches would not be complete without visiting the linebackers, and just like the defensive line, I have the Patriots going 7 deep here. Starting off with Anthony Jennings, O'Shane Ximenez joining this group, Jelani Tavai, Joshua Uche, Juwan Bentley, Christian Ellis, and Raekwon McMillan make the cut. On the outside looking in, Joe Giles Harris, which again, folks, another very difficult cut. This guy has done everything the Patriots have asked him to. If you have him on your 53-man roster, I'm not going to argue the point. It was a pure numbers crunch with eliminating him. But again, if he's on the roster, I think the Patriots are doing the right thing. And of course, Steele Chambers, once again, on the outside looking in. I look for him to be someone the Pats target as a potential scout teamer. Don't forget about Sione Takitaki, who is right now on the PUP list. But because he's yet to participate in practice, I think the Patriots start him on PUP, and that gives the nod to Mike's magnificent 7 linebackers that I've just listed. Now, of course, we're all looking at the linebackers list, and conspicuous by its absence is the name of Matthew Judon. I've said several times Matthew Judon is not a player I would have traded. He added so much value to this team, not only as a pass rusher, but as a facilitator for his teammates, and of course for morale purposes, both on the field and off. Truly one of the great guys in the business. I wish him all the best in Atlanta, but he's not walking through the door in Foxborough anytime soon, folks. So that means Players are going to have to step up, and they're going to have to help mitigate that loss. We already talked about how Keion White could possibly do that, but the linebackers, maybe with a little assist from some of the defensive backs, are going to have to control the pass rush on third down. That's something that Matthew Judon did so well, and he's not there to do it anymore. Who's going to step up and create the stunts necessary to confuse opposing offenses? Well, that's where I think some of the preseason standouts, such as O'Shane Ximenez, Christian Ellis, Raekwon McMillan, they can prove their value in those situations, and that's going to allow guys like Anthony Jennings and Joshua Uche to take on larger roles, maybe even starting roles in this defense. Pats fans, we've talked about the skill positions. We've got down into the trenches. Well, now it's time to give a little love to the secondary and not forget about the specialists. When we return here on Locked On Patriots, we're going to talk cornerbacks, safeties, and a move that may have us all singing "All Hail the New Leg in Town." We wrap up Locked On Patriots' first 53-man roster prediction of 2024 when this episode of the Locked On Patriots podcast continues, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Listen up, Locked On listeners. I know you love sports. I love sports. As a matter of fact, I love them so much that I never want them to stop. But with the playoffs now firmly behind us, we get fewer games, and the sports just aren't sportsing like we want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. Yeah, that's right, folks. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Patriots fans, thank you once again for joining us here today on Locked On Patriots. We are making our best efforts to predict the Patriots' 53-man roster for 2024. We have already discussed the quarterbacks, the running backs, the receivers, and the tight ends. We got down into the trenches in the last segment and talked about the O-line, the D-line, and the linebackers. But the Patriots secondary may be the most exciting positional group on this roster. And yeah, that means two different groups, the cornerbacks and the safeties. And let's not forget the specialists, folks. That group could be looking a little different this year. We'll get into that in just a moment. But first, it's time to delve into the defensive backfield, and we start with the cornerbacks. Christian Gonzalez, Jonathan Jones, Marcus Jones, Marco Wilson, Alex Austin, and Isaiah Bolden round out the six that I believe will make up this cornerback group in the initial 53-man roster for the New England Patriots on opening day. You may be a bit surprised that rookie draft pick Marcellus Dial is on the cut list along with Azizi Hearn and Mikey Victor. And if you are a little surprised by that, I fully understand it. All three of these guys have had solid training camps so far. I'll go into my reasons in just a bit, but when you can carry six cornerbacks and you still are looking at the positional group and saying that you left some notable talent on the shelf, it's only a testament to the Patriots' depth and promise at this position. And they have a lot of young talent and a lot of very good players that could round into great players. We all know about Christian Gonzalez and the prowess he brings to the table. I've heard some people say he's had a quiet camp. It hasn't really been overwhelming. I'm not going to criticize anyone for their opinions, but I don't see that. I think Christian has been very good this training camp. I think he's been patient. I think he's been someone that opposing quarterbacks, including his own teammates right here in New England, want to avoid throwing to. This guy can lock down his defender, and I believe you're going to see that in short order, starting with game one against the Bengals. But let's face it, Christian's position is not in jeopardy here in New England, and neither is Jonathan Jones. He's missed some time with some injuries, but according to Drake Maye, he's very close to getting back out there, as is Marcus Jones. These guys are your starters. Christian and Jonathan at the perimeter, Marcus in the slot. Marco Wilson, Alex Austin, Isaiah Bolden. Each unique skill sets, but each brings something different to the table. Marco is a guy that's explosive. He's a hard hitter. He's going to chase down the football. Alex Austin is someone who can draw a bead on it and make plays happen. Bolden's ability to stay in step with his target, along with the special teams prowess that he brings makes him a logical addition to this team. And Gerard Mayo called him a potential special teams beast. Always have to look for guys that are versatile, and I believe he will be someone the Patriots can rely on. Getting back to Dial for just a moment, because this was another tough cut. He's had a great summer, and as a late round rookie draft pick, you'd think he'd have the inside track on making one of these spots on the roster. But I think with guys like Wilson and Austin, given their salaries, given the way the contracts are structured, I think the Patriots have an easier time sneaking Marcellus Dial onto the practice squad, getting him through waivers than they would with veterans like Wilson or Austin. So that's the reason why I have Marcellus Dial out. I think the Patriots will do everything they can to retain him via the practice squad. Second to last, but certainly not least, on our roster radar here on this 53-man roster prediction episode is the safety position. And I have the Patriots carrying 5. Kyle Duggar, Jabril Peppers, Jalen Hawkins, Brendan Schooler, and here's the surprise one, folks, undrafted rookie free agent Del Pettis. On the outside looking in are Joshua Bledsoe and A.J. Thomas. And for those of you viewing this podcast, you can see I have Marte Mapu listed on injured reserve. I'll get into my reasons on that in just a moment. If we're talking safeties, you have to acknowledge that New England is once again going to deploy one of the top starting safety tandems in the NFL with Kyle Duggar and Jabril Peppers. No surprise there. These guys are very good at what they do, and they're going to continue to show that to the NFL this year. But these depth pieces like Jalen Hawkins and Brendan Schooler and Del Pettis, I think have shown themselves worthy of attention as well. Jalen Hawkins, all throughout training camp, provided a lot of veteran savvy on the field, and this kid is also capable of winning his matchups. Brendan Schooler is primarily known for his special teams, and in years past, if Bill Belichick was still the coach of this team, I'd probably be listing him as a specialist simply because that's where he's going to make his biggest impact. But the Patriots have made it very clear that they want players to be versatile. They don't necessarily want Brendan Schooler to just be painted into a special teams room. They want him to be able to earn his keep as a safety as well. And honestly, he's shown some range in the opportunities he's had to get snaps out there. You will see Brendan Schooler align at safety during the regular season. I don't think you'll necessarily see him align all that much, but he will align in this role at some point throughout the season. So once again, keep a sharp eye on Brendan Schooler. Pettis might be a surprise. In my opinion, he's a pleasant surprise here because his performance to date makes him worthy of retention. This kid can hit. He's very aware of where the ball is at all times, and the savvy he's shown in being able to stay and the savvy he's shown in coverage, to me, makes him someone that leaps off the page. If he were to go to the waiver wire, I firmly believe that there are definitely teams out there that have scouted him that would be ready to put him on their roster if, in fact, he becomes available. That's why I went with Dell in this situation over Joshua Bledsoe. I think Bledsoe can probably get to the practice squad if the Patriots want him. I don't think that's going to be the case with Del Pettis. That's why I put him in, and I believe he's earned that spot when it comes to the safety position. As for Mapu, he's sparingly seen the practice fields throughout the past few weeks. His starting the season on the injured list, I think, is definitely a possibility. We'll see what happens to him. I certainly don't have him being cut. I think there's still too much prowess and promise when it comes to Marte Mapu. I believe he'll get the opportunity to earn a spot on this roster, but the limited snaps that he's seen, it would not surprise me to see him start the season on an injured list. So, folks, we've covered the offense, we've covered the defense, and now it's time to get down to the final 3, the specialists. And in what could have been a surprise just a month ago, really doesn't come as all that much of a shock to most of you out there, I have the Patriots carrying Joey Slye as their new kicker, Joe Cardona as the long snapper, and Bryce Baringer as the punter. Now, Cardona and Baringer were pretty much roster locks since the 90-man rosters were set. I don't think either one of these guys was ever in jeopardy of losing their job. Even when Tucker Addington was signed to the team, it was more about controlling Joe Cardona's workload, making sure that he was going to be healthy for the season. In my opinion, the Patriots' most interesting positional battle was between Joey Slye and Chad Ryland. And we all know that Chad was a 4th-round pick in 2023. Everyone talking about the big leg that he had coming out of Maryland. He was the guy that could be the Patriots kicker of the future. They brought him in to help mitigate the loss of Nick Folk. It didn't work out that way in 2023, but most of us believe that with a year under his belt, Chad would come in and be able to earn the spot. Patriots brass didn't necessarily see it that way. Slye has been their primary kicker. He was the guy attempting the field goals against the Eagles last Thursday. Put the Patriots on the scoreboard in the second quarter when he connected on a 51-yard field goal, and then just for good measure, he added a 45-yard field goal in the fourth quarter. And heading into Sunday's practice, prior to the Patriots taking the field on Sunday, he held a slight edge when it comes to the statistical battle between he and Ryland. I want to give a tip of the cap to my good friend and the best in the business, Mike Reese of ESPN, who's been tracking these statistics. When it comes to field goals and point after tries, Slye connected on 29 of 35, while Ryland has connected on 28 of 33. Not necessarily a huge advantage, but when you take under account the new kickoff rules and the fact that kickers may have to be a little more physical this year, look at Joey Slye, and he is well put together, folks. I think the Patriots look at him as the guy they'd like to go into the season with, and that's why I have Joey Slye edging out Chad Ryland at this point. I would say he has a leg up on the competition. I apologize for the dad joke there, but I believe it's appropriate. And bottom line, folks, this is one to watch. So keep a very sharp eye on the Washington Commanders game coming up on the 25th of August. And also our reports and all the various reports out there from training camp, because that's going to be telltale on who the Patriots' new kicker might be. So there you have it, folks. Our best attempt at bringing you what the 53-man roster for your New England Patriots might look like come roster cutdown. Drop us a comment in the comments section below if you're on YouTube, or feel free to reach out to me on X at MDABATENFL and let me know your thoughts. Did I leave some of your favorites on the cutting room floor? Do you believe the Patriots may carry 4 quarterbacks? If it's on your mind, I want to know what you're thinking. And in that vein, folks, I thank each and every one of you, especially all of you everydayers, for all of the support that you provide to Locked On Patriots. And as always, I remind you to stay safe and to stay well and to be the change you wish to see in the world. Have a great day, everyone, and we'll see you back here again next time on Locked On Patriots.